Alhamdulillah, in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful, peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anger often disguises itself as strength. It makes us feel powerful, like we're standing up for ourselves, demanding respect, taking control. But if you look closer, anger isn't power, it's a reaction, a moment where emotion replaces clarity and the heart loses balance. Power is calmness under pressure. Anger is noise that clouds judgment. When we confuse the two, we let emotion steer where wisdom should lead. When you feel anger rising, it's not a sign that you're strong. It's a signal that something inside is unsettled. It's an alarm, not an achievement. It tells you that your peace has been disturbed, that your ego feels threatened, or that pain has been triggered. The real question isn't, who made me angry? But why does this affect me so deeply? True strength begins when you turn that question inward instead of outward. Many people believe expressing anger is a form of courage, but courage is not in shouting louder. It's in staying quiet when your soul wants to explode. The Prophet taught us that controlling anger is a greater victory than conquering enemies. Why? Because every battle with others is easier than the one you fight within yourself. The war against ego, pride, and impulsiveness is the hardest one, yet it's the only one that truly defines character. Anger distracts you from your purpose. It consumes mental energy that could have been spent on growth, reflection, or prayer. It makes you focus on the problem, not the solution. You begin to replay scenarios in your mind, justify your reactions, and feed the fire of resentment. The moment anger enters the heart, peace quietly exits. You can't hold both at once. In moments of anger, Shaitan whispers that reacting instantly gives satisfaction. But that satisfaction is temporary, and the regret that follows is lasting. That's why silence in anger is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the space that allows your heart to catch up to your mind. And in that space, you can hear your conscience again, the voice that says, you are better than this. When anger controls your words, it breaks relationships. When it controls your actions, it breaks peace. But when you control it, it builds your soul. Every time you restrain your tongue, every time you walk away, you are reclaiming your inner strength. The strongest person isn't the one who wins arguments. It's the one who keeps their dignity when provoked. Anger is often rooted in unmet expectations of people, situations, or even of life itself. When those expectations crumble, frustration rises. But peace begins when you replace expectation with acceptance. When you say, this is Allah's test for me, the same situation that once made you angry now becomes a lesson in patience. The heart that trusts Allah has no room left for rage. The more you feed anger, the weaker your faith feels. The more you feed calmness, the stronger your connection to Allah becomes, because peace is the natural state of a heart close to Him. Anger is not power. It's the distance between who you are and who you're meant to be when your soul is aligned with your Creator. Anger rarely begins in the moment it's expressed. It often starts much earlier, from wounds that were never healed, words that were never said, or pain that was never acknowledged. What we see on the surface is only the reaction, but beneath it lies a story. Every burst of anger carries a history, disappointment, fear, rejection, or exhaustion. When we fail to understand that story, we end up fighting symptoms instead of healing causes. When someone provokes you and anger rises, it feels instant. But what truly happens is that the heart remembers. It remembers every similar pain, every time you felt unheard or disrespected. The present moment simply triggers a memory the heart hasn't resolved. That's why anger feels bigger than the situation, because it's not just about now. It's about everything that came before. The path to emotional maturity begins when we stop blaming the trigger and start understanding the root. Instead of asking, why did this person make me angry? Ask, what inside me is still sensitive to this? This shift turns anger into insight. It allows us to see that maybe what hurt wasn't the action itself, but the meaning we gave it, The interpretation shaped by old wounds. Many people try to control anger by suppressing it, pretending it doesn't exist. But suppression isn't control, it's storage. And stored emotion always leaks out through harsh words, cold silences, or sudden outbursts. Real control isn't silence without peace. It's understanding without R. Assentment. To understand the root of anger, you must be willing to face what hurts, not hide from it. Sometimes the root of anger is pride, the belief that we deserve better treatment, more respect, more attention. Other times it's fear. Fear of losing control, fear of being misunderstood, fear of not being enough. The ego disguises these fears as strength, but they are just insecurities asking for healing. The Prophet taught humility as the antidote to pride and remembrance of Allah as the cure for fear. When the heart humbles itself, anger finds no place to stay. Understanding anger requires honesty. It means admitting when your reaction isn't righteous but rooted in pain. It means accepting that others don't always cause your storms. Sometimes they just reveal the weather inside you. This self-awareness doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It's how emotional intelligence grows through spiritual awareness. In Islam, anger is not condemned outright. It's meant to be managed, understood, and purified. The goal isn't to eliminate emotion, but to elevate it, to turn anger into awareness, reaction into reflection, pain into prayer. When you understand the source, your response naturally becomes softer, wiser, and more aligned with faith. Each time you pause and look inward, you uncover a truth about your own heart. Maybe you'll find a need for forgiveness, a desire for validation, or a lack of patience. Whatever you find, that awareness is a step toward healing. Because when you understand the root, the reaction no longer controls you. You begin to control it through understanding and light. Silence is not weakness. It's a form of strength that few understand. In a world where everyone rushes to speak, the one who stays quiet holds power over himself. Silence in moments of anger is not about retreat. It's about mastery. It's the conscious decision to pause, to protect your peace, and to avoid words that can't be taken back. The strong are not those who dominate with speech, but those who discipline their tongue when their heart is on fire. When the Prophet said, "The strong one is not the one who overcomes others, but the one who controls himself in anger," he defined true courage. It's easy to shout when emotions rise, but it takes inner power to remain calm. The person who can hold his silence in the heat of conflict owns the moment. Every second you resist the urge to speak is a moment you reclaim control over your soul. Silence builds clarity. In the space between reaction and response, you give your heart time to breathe. Anger pushes for immediate action, but silence invites reflection. What do I really want to say? Why am I hurt? What outcome do I want? These questions only appear when the noise fades. Silence transforms chaos into understanding, and from that understanding comes wisdom. Many people confuse silence with weakness, believing that speaking instantly shows strength. But reaction is not strength, it's surrender to impulse. Silence, on the other hand, is active self-restraint. It's not that you have nothing to say, it's that you choose when and how to say it. And that choice, guided by patience, protects both your dignity and your peace. Silence also shields relationships. Most damage in human connection happens not because of anger itself, but because of what's said during it. Words spoken in haste can wound deeply, and even apologies can't erase their mark. Choosing silence gives time for emotions to settle before decisions or words become permanent. What silence saves, anger destroys in spirituality. RMS, silence is a form of worship. It's a moment of surrender where you allow Allah to guide your tongue and heart instead of letting ego take control. When you bite back words, you could easily say, Allah sees your restraint. That restraint becomes an act of faith, a quiet dhikr of patience and discipline. Silence also humbles the ego. It reminds us that not every battle deserves our voice, and not every insult deserves our praise. Silence is a louder response than words could ever be. It tells the world, my peace is worth more than my pride. You begin to treat your emotions with mercy, the same way Allah treats his servants with mercy. That softness doesn't make you weaker. It makes you spiritually awake. Awareness also reconnects you with your higher purpose. In moments of anger, it's easy to forget why you exist. To worship, to serve, to reflect Allah's attributes of patience and forgiveness. Awareness pulls you back to that purpose. It whispers, you were created for more than this moment. When anger is filtered through faith, it becomes a reminder of how deeply the soul needs Allah's calm. Over time, as awareness deepens, anger no longer feels like an eruption, but like an opportunity. You start to meet your emotions with curiosity rather than resistance. You learn to say, what is this teaching me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? In that shift, anger becomes a door to wisdom, and awareness becomes the key that opens it. Reaction is instinct. Reflection is intelligence. When something hurts, confuses, or angers you, your first impulse is to respond immediately, to defend, explain, or retaliate. But the most powerful people are not those who react the fastest. They are those who take time to understand before they respond. Reflection gives meaning to experience. It transforms pain into perspective and turns conflict into a lesson. The one who reflects doesn't escape emotion. He refines it. Reaction is driven by the ego, but reflection is guided by the soul. The ego says, I must be right, while the soul asks, what can I learn? Every time you pause to reflect, you step out of the narrow space of pride and into the vast space of wisdom. This is why reflection brings peace. It removes the urgency to prove and replaces it with the desire to grow. The Prophet embodied this balance. He responded with calm and clarity, even when others reacted with hostility. When you replace reaction with reflection, you protect your energy. Every reaction drains you. Every reflection strengthens you. Reacting ties you to the chaos around you, but reflecting roots you in purpose. Instead of saying what anger tells you to say, you ask yourself, what would Allah want me to say right now? That simple shift moves you from emotion to intention. It keeps your words aligned with values, not with moods. Reflection turns mistakes into wisdom. When you look back at how you've reacted in the past, the arguments, the anger, the regret, reflection allows you to see the lesson that emotion hid. You begin to recognize patterns in yourself, and through awareness, growth happens. The same event that once hurt you becomes a teacher. Life keeps repeating lessons until you choose reflection over reaction. Reacting often satisfies the moment but damages the future. Reflection may hurt in the short term because it forces you to confront your part in the problem, but it builds a stronger foundation for peace. It reminds you that emotional control isn't about suppressing feelings, but about guiding them towards something better. When you reflect, you shift from, how could they do this to me? To how can I respond in a way that pleases Allah? That is where maturity begins. Reflection also invites humility. It teaches that you don't always have to be right, you just have to be sincere. Many conflicts dissolve when one person chooses reflection over pride. Silence, listening, and empathy become tools of strength. Through reflection, you realize that the goal isn't to win arguments, but to win your soul back from negativity. In Islam, reflection, tafakkur, is a form of worship. It's the process of looking within and recognizing Allah's signs in your experiences. When you reflect on your anger, your failures, your interactions, you begin to see divine wisdom in them. Reflection brings you closer to Allah because it transforms emotion into remembrance. What once made you react now makes you remember. The habit of reflection builds a character that can't be easily shaken. Life will still challenge you, people will still provoke you, but your response will come from understanding, not impulse. The heart that reflects becomes calm, not because life is easy, but because it knows how to find meaning in every test. Reaction comes from the surface. Reflection comes from depth. And in that depth, the soul finds its peace. Inner peace is not found in control, but in surrender. The more you try to force life to move your way, the more resistance you create inside yourself. Peace begins when you stop fighting the flow of Allah's plan and start trusting it. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in to something greater, to divine wisdom that sees what you cannot. When you stop trying to control every outcome, you make room for tranquility to enter your heart. The human ego craves certainty and power. It wants to predict, to fix, to ensure that everything happens on its own terms. But faith requires the opposite. It asks you to release control, to trust unseen outcomes, to believe that Allah's plan is better, even when it hurts. This act of surrender is not weakness, it's liberation. It frees you from the burden of playing God in your own life and allows your heart to rest in divine care. When you surrender to Allah, you no longer need to understand every reason. You begin to accept that some things are hidden for your protection, some delayed for your growth, and some removed for your purification. That acceptance becomes peace. You no longer chase explanations. You find comfort in saying, Allah knows, and that is enough. The same heart that once panicked now breathes in calm because it trusts the one who never fails. Surrender also changes how you respond to pain. Instead of asking, why me? You start asking, what is this teaching me? You begin to see trials not as punishments, but as invitations. Invitations to grow in patience, in gratitude, and in reliance on Allah. The more you trust that there is wisdom behind every hardship, the less control anger and frustration have over you. Surrender turns suffering into strength. True surrender requires humility. It's the realization that you are not the author of your destiny, but a traveler guided by divine direction. You do your best, but you release attachment to results. This balance between effort and surrender is where serenity lives. The Prophet taught this perfectly. He planned, he worked, but his heart was never attached to the outcome. His peace came from knowing that success and failure both belong to Allah. When you surrender, you stop arguing with reality. You stop trying to bend people, events, and outcomes to your will. You learn to flow, to trust the timing of your journey, to believe that delays are not denials. This mindset transforms daily life. Suddenly, patience feels lighter, disappointment feels smaller, and gratitude feels constant. You stop chasing peace because peace starts chasing you. Surrender is also an act of remembrance. Every time you say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, you are reminding your soul that everything begins and ends with Allah. This awareness dissolves fear because what can you lose when you already belong to Him? Surrender anchors your heart in this truth. Nothing that is meant for you will ever miss you, and nothing that misses you was ever meant for you. Over time, surrender becomes the natural language of a peaceful heart. It doesn't remove struggle, but it removes resistance. You still feel, but you no longer fight what is written. You still plan, but you no longer panic. You still hope, but you no longer fear. In surrender, you finally find the stillness that control could never give. The calm that comes from resting in the care of the one who controls all things. Peace is not something that arrives once and stays forever. It's something you build moment by moment. Jew. See, like faith, peace requires effort, attention, and consistency. It is a practice, a way of showing up for your soul every day. You don't stumble into peace by accident. You choose it through your thoughts, your words, and your reactions. It begins in the small decisions, to forgive instead of resent, to breathe instead of explode, to pray instead of panic. Each morning offers a new chance to practice peace. Before the noise of the world reaches you, you have a quiet moment to ground yourself in remembrance. The way you start your day often shapes how you handle the challenges ahead. A few minutes of reflection, dua, or gratitude can strengthen your heart for what's coming. Peace doesn't mean the absence of problems. It means beginning your day connected to the one who can handle them. Practicing peace also means protecting your inner space. You cannot expect calm while constantly exposing yourself to negativity, whether from people, media, or your own thoughts. Guarding your peace is not selfish. It's an act of stewardship over your heart. You can't pour patience or kindness into others if your spirit is constantly drained. Peace thrives in simplicity, silence, and boundaries. Peace requires forgiveness, not just for others, but for yourself. Every mistake you've made, every moment you regret, every weakness you carry is an opportunity to show mercy to your own soul. The heart that can forgive itself can also forgive others more easily. Each time you let go of bitterness, you create space for peace to grow. You can't carry grudges and expect serenity to live alongside them. Daily peace also lives in gratitude. When you train your eyes to see blessings instead of complaints, you shift from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude turns ordinary moments into sacred ones. It teaches the heart to focus on what remains instead of what's missing. Even in hardship, there are reasons to be thankful. Breath, faith, the ability to start again. Gratitude keeps peace alive in the middle of storms. Peace deepens through patience. Life will continue to test you through people, pain, and unexpected turns. Every time you choose patience over reaction, you strengthen your inner calm. Patience doesn't mean you don't feel frustration. It means you let Allah manage what you cannot. Over time, patience becomes a habit and peace becomes its reward. The practice of peace is also the practice of presence. The more you live in the moment, the less you suffer from what's past or worry about what's next. Presence teaches you to breathe, to notice, to be. You find peace in prayer, not because it changes the world instantly, but because it changes your focus from chaos to connection, from control to surrender. Peace is built through repetition, through daily acts of remembrance, compassion, and trust. It's not found in the grand moments of life, but in the quiet, consistent ones. Every day, you get another chance to choose calm over chaos, faith over fear, reflection over reaction. Peace is not a destination. It's a discipline, one that must be renewed each day with the heart turning again and again toward Allah.